All right. What's going on, guys? Today, I want to talk about an interesting topic. This is kind of like a PSA, I think, to Commander players uh, about cEDH and why you should actually give it a try. So I have EDH rec open right now, just to kind of look at some stuff that relates to this conversation. But really, what this video comes down to is I don't mean to tell anyone how they should play EDH, because I actually do believe that every form of gameplay should see something, right? Like, should see attention, should see. If you prefer to play, let's say you like standard, because I don't like standard, but let's say you like standard, good, and play standard. Do what you want to do. This message isn't to shit on Commander players. This message is to say cEDH isn't as bad as you think it is. And I completely understand both sides of this because I played Commander for years without ever playing cEDH. And I really thought the format looked disgusting. I mean, you you're playing with the most powerful cards in Magic, right? Like the idea that someone might play Stasis or Wasteland you or something like that sounds terrible. And, I don't know. Let me pull up Scryfall so I can actually pull up some of these cards as I'm mentioning them. So, like Stasis, for example, players skip their untap steps. and like already, like a lot of casual players are going to see this, like that I'm talking about this, and they're like, okay, you lost me. But let me explain to you why this isn't so bad. So, the beauty of cEDH is there really isn't any expectations like that you're not going to play X or Y or Z. Most cards that you could always be more annoying than everyone else at the table are kind of on the table as fair game, right? So it's fine if you run your Stasis. It's also fine if you just counter that Stasis with your Force OL. It's also fine if you run Stax Pieces and don't ever let the Stasis player cast your Stasis. Like everything is on the table. And that makes everything less offensive by default, right? I think that's a really interesting thing about this format is really you can run whatever you like. So like Stony Silence, let me pull this up in case you don't know what Stony Silence does. This card right here, in case you don't understand what that text says right there, this makes it so your mana rocks don't work. Now, I want you to sit down and imagine what happens when you go and play a casual game of Commander and someone plays Stony Silence. Like, they're a complete asshole. Like, dude, what is wrong with you? Why are you playing this? In cEDH, this card's totally fine. Absolutely fine. No one has a problem with it. And why? Why is it okay? It's because we have things like Mana Crypt and Soul Ring and Mana Vault. And there's so much more. It's not even limited. You have Senseis. You have, people hardly even run that. But there's so many broken artifacts. Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, Chrome Mox. This is super reasonable. This isn't like a salt engine or anything. I mean, it's annoying to play through, yes. But this is fair game. This is totally on the table. And it is the reasonable counterplay, right? And that's the beauty of it, is I would never be salty at someone for running Stony Silence. The other nice thing about cEDH is generally people play to win. Something that happens in casual a lot is people king make because they kind of lose, like, once you lose agency in the game, the only thing you can do is make the people you don't like lose. And that kind of play pattern really sucks. No one wants to play with someone like that. But it happens a lot in casual just because I think there's a lot of situations where one player will get knocked out of the game. The beauty of cEDH is that with the power of these decks, they're almost never completely out of the game. They can be, and some decks have like awkward situations. Like if you're playing a budget deck, you might have one card you need in your deck to win the game, and you lose if you don't have it. So in that particular situation, you could run into a situation like this. But usually these decks are built to have multiple win conditions, and so it's never worth like giving up. Right? There's always a chance that you could basically win that game. I think that's a huge boon for this format. I think it's really nice that people play to win. Not to say that casual isn't fun. I mean, I myself admittedly like to troll when I play Magic the Gathering. But I think it's a really nice change of pace to play at a table where people are making the correct plays all the time, with intent to win. Another thing I really like about cEDH is jank is actually jank, I think. So in casual Commander, you'll run into some random commander. Let's just say, I don't know, you're building cat tribal, right? I don't know, Renaissari, I think is how you spell it. Is it like that? Is it maybe one N? Shoot. Let me try dog cat. Does that work? Okay. No, maybe it's Renaissari. Man, I don't know how I managed this. That's funny. Well, let's just go look at commanders, right? So, I don't know. Let's look at Grixis commanders. So, let's say you're building... I mean, Nekasar's top, right? I don't even think Nekasar's good anymore, to be honest with you. Like, not even in casual. I think this commander is, like, totally past its time. The game is way too fast for you to be wheeling your opponents and just hoping they don't win the game. This commander is kind of terrible, right? But you're still running, like, Psych Rift, and you're still doing obnoxious things that people hate. You're still Narset, windfalling. And so, you know, people want to, like, market their commander as jank, but really it's just, it doesn't matter because you're running these, like, really obnoxious staples, and you're still going to, like, pop people. Just because you have the right stuff in hand. The nice thing about cEDH is, like, if you build jank, like if you put Nekasar together in cEDH, it is actually jank. There's just no way that this commander can compete with, like, Kess right next to it, right? And that sounds terrible, like, and I get that. But here's the thing: if you want to win, you can build Kess. But if you're like that guy who likes brewing, and you're like, oh, I love building commanders that shouldn't have any business winning, don't play casual, you know, and pick up your, like, weird, like, oh, dude, I'm going to make Thraxamundar good. Because your deck is still going to be gross. It's going to be full of, like, Dictated Erebos. People are still going to say, oh, your deck is, like, plenty good. You know, it's cancer. Don't play it with me. You play Nekasar and cEDH and someone rages at you. I mean, that's hilarious. 9 out of 10 people will be laughing alongside you. They'll say, what? They complain about Nekasar? That's wild. And that's the wonderful thing about cEDH is, like, if you want to brew and do weird stuff, I think you can, and I think it's more... I guess it comes down to it feels better when you actually pull it off, right? Like, it means more to pull off Nekasar than it does in regular. Not to say he's a bad commander in regular, but, you know, in cEDH, it's more impressive. Another thing about cEDH is that, like, the crazy plays feel more rewarding, right? So, like, what's your crazy play in casual is, like, you maybe attack with a Natalia, you get a bunch of spells, or maybe you have, like, a counterspell war, and that's cool. Some people hate that, but I mean, in cEDH, we're gonna look at, like, some wild stuff here, right? Like, who even knows? I remember the other day I was playing a game, and everyone knows Thassa's Oracle, really powerful card. It wins with Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact, but I'm just going to bring up Consultation for now. So this Demonic Consultation, basically you name a card. In this case, you'll name a card that's not in your deck, and then you will exile your entire library with this card, and then you'll, with a Thassa's Oracle on this ability on the stack. So, to clarify real quick, you're casting this creature. You're letting it into the battlefield. You're putting its ability on the stack, and then you're casting Demonic Consultation, exiling your library, and then this will win you the game. This is so funny because this guy had so many cards in hand, and he was so ready for anything, right? And he does this Thassa's Oracle thing, and I just play Angel's Grace, and Angel's Grace. Split second instant, so you can't counter this. I can't lose the game, and my opponents can't win the game until this turn. So what does that actually do? That Thassa's Oracle no longer knocks anyone out of the game. He no longer wins. And he has no library left. So he's going to go and draw. Right? He's going to lose. That makes this so much more interesting, right? Than me, let's say I counter someone's Atali. That's not very exciting. This is hilarious. Everyone at the table laughs, right? Even the person who like played into this is like, what just happened? You know what I mean? And the crazy part is in cEDH, there's even a chance he still comes back from this. If he has enough cards in hand, or he has the right cards in hand, the right cards in graveyard, he might not lose on his upkeep or on his draw step when he has to draw that card. And that's what's so cool about this format is it really does feel like it feels like the format where understanding how cards interact and understanding all this stuff feels really exciting. Free counterspells sound annoying, but when every spell is so broken, I feel like it's fair. And we have like crazy counterspell hate too. Like, this is obviously also legal in regular Commander, but like Veil of Summer is insane. This card's nuts. Or, you know, combo decks can be running all kinds of stuff. Like, just Force of Will is a great answer for people trying to stop combo pack negation, stuff like this. There's a lot of interaction, a lot of back and forth, and it's a lot of really intense moments where you're like, does someone have an answer? I win if you don't, you know? And it's a fast-paced game. And I really think all of this makes cEDH a ton of fun. I think it's super underrated. And the reason I think it's underrated is, like, people played with these guys who, mind you, sometimes had a cEDH deck or thought they had a cEDH deck. They sit down at a table with a bunch of, like, 6s and 7s with their cEDH deck, I say in quotations, and they kick their ass, and they're like, they feel really good about themselves, and they're like, oh man, dude, this guy's a scumbag. I hate this person. And I can't blame anyone for feeling that way. Because if that's what I thought cEDH was, I wouldn't play it either, right? But that's where I think, like, the big misunderstanding is that this format is actually really cool and really sick. And all of these decks, you see, this is like the whole list. These are just the meta decks, right? This is a lot of decks to start out with. Not to mention there's more. And you could definitely compete with decks that aren't like this in cEDH. You don't have to build meta. But meta is fun. Like, honestly, it is fun. It's a 100-card singleton, so you have a ton of customization to be like realistic. You don't have to run the top 100 cards or whatever in that color. But it's just so different in these ways that people think it is. And I want to apologize personally for every single person that has ever just sat down at a table with some obnoxious 9-10 deck and just blasted a bunch of casuals and made them think, wow, cEDH is terrible. cEDH players are cringe. Because it's a total misconception and it sucks. Like really, seriously, it is unfortunate that has ever happened to anyone. And I will say too, if I didn't really go over this too fully already, the nature of this format, again, just results in less salt. When everyone's playing on this same level and everyone kind of knows what they're doing, there could be a little bit of salt, right? Because, like, sometimes you play a game and someone makes choices that you feel were like preferring another player. And that will happen because that's the nature of any free-for-all game. Like, there's no way to avoid that. But there's so much less salt because there's not this argument of, oh, you shouldn't be playing that card, really. Because everyone's playing to win, right? Like I'm not going to tell you not to run Heliod Ballista if I'm playing Magda. I mean, what business do I have, really saying you can't enjoy the game the way you want to play it? You can have a preference for what you want to play against, but, I mean, I don't see why you'd ever be like, oh, no, Storm player, you want to take multiple turns? Taking multiple turns in this format isn't even good. It's funny, I talk to people, and people think turns decks are cEDH decks. That's not even true. Who has time to be taking extra turns? Just win. So, I mean, that's the beauty of this format. And unfortunately, we're just associated with these, like, mid-tier assholes who are just running around causing a ton of misery. And it's just not accurate. So there are a few other things I want to go over. And the first one is the price. So straight up, I mean, let's look at Force of Will, right? $94. That's pretty rough. That's an expensive card. And every blue deck does run this, yes. And it runs a bunch of other expensive counterspells. Will I say this format is cheap? or accessible? No, it is not. Straight up, I'll tell you right now, it's just not. However, I don't think there's a format where people are more accepting of proxies than this one. Literally, I've never played with a cEDH player, like a genuine cEDH player, that minded if someone had proxies. I played with casuals who get mad when there's proxies. I've never played with a cEDH player that said, oh, you better not proxy Force of Will. No one cares. They just want to play with people who actually have decks. They don't want to play with you if you're running, Dissipate and Cancel on your cEDH deck. They want to play against Force of Will. They want to play against someone who has the ability to win. Because that's where, like, the pride of winning comes from, is playing against people who had equal chances as you to win. No one wants... I don't understand why anyone would want to take their cEDH deck and go play against some Prosper Recon and say, oh, I dunked on you. Look how much better at Magic I am. Okay, so you spent, $3,000 for that? That's it? Is that what gets you off? So, I think proxying is great for this format. There are a lot of unfortunate problems with this. Like, going to a tournament, obviously they probably aren't allowing proxies, or they're allowing very little. And it is rough. I can't exactly say there's a solution for that yet, unfortunately. But I think things will get better as time goes. Like, these prices are coming down. And I think it's a really fun format. I would recommend proxying it and just giving it a go and see if you like it. You don't even have to go to tournaments either. You can just play with your friends. It's a really fun format. Let's see. So another thing about this format, I think, that is important to understand is you should build decks to win. So this is something a little bit different from casual, right? Is if you're building a cEDH deck, you should build it to the best of your ability to win. And the reason I say that is, and to be clear, there's no problem with doing weird stuff, trolling, memeing, whatever. Like, it's still Commander, right? And you still have fun. The intent of any format is to have fun, especially if you're proxying stuff. Like, you're not going to tournaments anyway, right? So enjoy the game, have fun, right? But really, your deck should win. The only thing that causes salt in this game is you being the only player with any like agency and doing nothing. That is the worst thing I think you can do in cEDH, from my experience. It's just, if you're playing, let's say, Sithis Enchantments, right, and you dump your entire library onto the battlefield, and your opponents can't cast spells, and they can't play lands, and they can't do this, and it's not necessarily that extreme, but let's say they just can't do anything, and they're completely locked out. Do not take forever to win. Especially, do not say, I don't know how I'm going to win, because that would be the worst. If you have control of the game, you should win the game. Your deck should be able to win somehow. That's really important. So that's something to keep in mind. Basically including multiple win conditions, and maybe even just something, just like a 2/2 flyer can get there eventually. If you can present some way to kill them. But yeah, better if you just have a straight up win condition. So a lot of people hate Thassa's Oracle, but I think it's good for the format. I've completely turned on it because it guarantees the game to end, and I love that. I think that's super reasonable. I think so. Stacks decks, I like Heliopolis deck because this will win. But I put together, it's not even on here anymore. I put together Lavinia. Oh my god, it's not even here either. It's outdated now? Yeah. I put together this deck, and it's a stacks deck, and it just wasn't fun because it just can't secure the win. There's a lot of other problems with this deck, with this particular commander, but it's important to realize, like, you need to be able to win the game, and you can't just dirtle around and, like, not have a way to end the game. Because people play to win, so they won't concede until they think they've lost. And that ends in a much more miserable experience. And then finally, one more thing before I basically end this video. If you take my advice and you try out cEDH, whatever you do not go take this deck and go play against your buddies' fucking casual, stupid pre-con shit. Please, God, play with other cEDH players. Do not just dunk on people. That is how we grow the format, right? You know, instead of dunking on him, let him borrow a proxy deck or help him proxy up a deck, and you guys play a game together. Do not just take out your CEDH deck and play against this stupid Prosper Precon or whatever it is. I don't care. Please. People need to stop doing that. That's hurting the format. And it really has no place here. Because it's just... It stinks. And no one likes those people. Unfortunately. So... Anyway. Hopefully this video makes it around. I know I'm not the biggest content creator on earth, but I think this is a message that more people can stand to see. I think there's too much of a separation between cEDH and casual, and it's there because of those like dudes in between that like don't know what they're doing. They're just assholes. cEDH players I know are cool. They're super funny. They want to have a great time playing the game, and I don't know. I think it's a great experience. So I would be open-minded and go ahead and try this out. And, you know, honestly, thank you for watching this video if you made it this far. And I'll see y'all later.